Welcome to this training session on the Garmin Apollo GPS, hosted by yours truly, Major Updraft.
In this lesson, we'll be learning about waypoints. Our objective is to learn how to create and define user waypoints and manipulate existing waypoints. A good overall principle to remember: you can only navigate to positions that exist in the database. If it's not in the database, you can't use the GPS to navigate there. Thus, it's important to know what positions already exist in the database. Of course, we have airports, three-letter identifiers here, no need for that K in front for US destinations, VORs, NDBs, intersections, which demand a quick note that there are two different databases for intersection. First, we have intersections K, which, although I cannot find any definitive information, I believe all the US waypoints are listed in this database. Here we can see our current waypoint Husky, which is in the USA under K. If we look at the second set, the intersection O database, we have an example of an intersection in Canada. I believe the O intersections are non-US intersections. If anyone has comments on this, please post them in the bottom on the YouTube page. We also have previously defined user waypoints. And last but not least, we have the CAP grid waypoints we'll be discussing later in this video. Of course, we'll need to hit Nav and Database, and it's going to ask us to create a user waypoint, and it tells us to press Enter. First thing we need to do is name the user waypoint. In this case, I'm going to scroll across with my large outer knob, and we'll just call this user waypoint 1. Then we can come and we can change the lat longs to whatever we need based on our mission. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but we can also scroll and change the elevation. I see no relevant reason to input the elevation, but we could do that if we wanted to reference the elevation of some point on the ground. But functionally, I don't see any purpose for it here in the GPS. As always, we'll use the Enter button to accept the information on the screen. Unfortunately, no confirmation is given that the waypoint has been created, though that would have been nice. To proceed direct to the user waypoint, we'll hit the Direct button, scroll with the small knob over to User Waypoints, and we'll see 001. We've already hit the Direct button, so now we just hit Enter. And you can see our navigation has switched to 001 user waypoint. We can see that on the map, and we have a bearing to that station, 358, and we could turn accordingly. There are three additional ways to create a user waypoint. We've already done lat long. We can create it based on a radial and distance from a known waypoint other than a user waypoint. We can update any of our user waypoints with our present position, or we can create one based on the US grid. This is important for CAP, search and rescue functions, and I want to demonstrate the use of that here. If we want to go to, for instance, grid 155 alpha 1, we need to dial that in. And we should confirm that the lat longs are approximately in our area. If we happen to have our GPS set for another sectional other than the one we're intending, in this case Atlanta, we could be defining a grid that's very far away, because the grids are reused for each sectional area of the country. Let's confirm what we see on the screen by Enter, and we've successfully defined that. In order to go to it, we could hit Direct. We've got our user waypoint. We can dial in 155 alpha 1. We've already hit Direct, so we hit Enter, and now we're navigating to that waypoint. You can also modify and delete existing user waypoints. Let's go back to the database. Here we see delete user waypoints. It's not uncommon for an excessive amount of user waypoints to build up in the GPS, especially if the aircraft is being used with multiple pilots and a combination of real and exercise missions. So I'll quickly demonstrate deleting some user waypoints. Simply should require a successive number of hits to the enter button, unless that user waypoint is in the current flight plan. So let's scroll off of 155 Alpha 1. That number 1 is deleted. It's important to not confuse deleting user waypoints with the other function here of deleting waypoint comments, which we haven't entered any into the simulator, but this is where those could be deleted. And we also have the ability to modify a user waypoint.
I encourage you to subscribe to the Major Updraft channel in order to catch future training videos. Thanks for watching, and remember, knowledge and proficiency promotes safe flying.